Should we be worried about the Milwaukee Bucks? Let's get into this.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic. Okay.
Quickly before we get the video started, if you guys enjoy this video and want to see more NBA content just like this one, hit that subscribe button and that post notification bell. Anyways, back to the video. The Milwaukee Bucks are coming off a fantastic season, winning the NBA championship when many people, including myself, didn't think they would be able to do so. And there were a few different reasons why a lot of people, including myself, didn't think the Bucks could win a championship last season. Now, probably the biggest reason why a lot of people didn't think the Bucks were going to win the championship last year was because the Brooklyn Nets obviously just formed their big three, and most people just thought they were too talented to not win an NBA championship. With James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving all on the same team, all that superstar firepower, and early on they proved the ability to actually play together, nobody thought anybody could beat this Nets team, barring any crazy injuries. Now, of course, later on they did get injured and that was a big reason why they didn't win, but that's kind of besides the point. And also going into the year, another team that they thought maybe could win an NBA championship is the Los Angeles Lakers, but of course they went through a ton of injuries as well and their season was kind of derailed earlier on. But besides even just the other teams in the NBA, one of the bigger reasons why a lot of people, including myself, didn't think the Bucks could win an NBA championship last year was the play of Giannis in the playoffs. For a few seasons now, whenever it came down to the regular season, Giannis was amazing, winning an MVP basically every single year. Honestly, he's been so great during the regular season, just dominating whatever team he plays. But really when it came down to the NBA playoffs and teams could really focus on Giannis for a 7-game series, teams just made it a lot more difficult on Giannis, and Giannis didn't necessarily play as well during the playoffs that he did during the regular season, and from times he would actually struggle. And in my opinion, the biggest reason why that was because Giannis had a lack of a 3-point jump shot and just a mid-range jump shot in general, and they could really load up on the paint and just make it more difficult for Giannis. And when it comes down to playoff situations, you can't expect your role players around you to play as well as they do during the regular season. That's the biggest reason why they're role players and not stars. And when teams were loading up the paint and forcing Giannis to kick out to some of his teammates just weren't hitting those same 3-point shots that they were during the regular season, and that was the biggest reason that the Bucks struggled. But last season was different for Giannis. Giannis completely worked on his game, specifically his shooting ability from that 3-point area, but as well as that post turnaround fadeaway, which is one of the biggest things that Giannis added within his game last year, and things completely changed for Giannis in the playoffs. Last year, not only was Giannis playing as well as he was during the regular season, but he was actually playing even better than he was during the regular season from time to time. And that's what all the best players in the NBA do. They take their games to another level when it comes down to clutch situations in the fourth quarter of a regular season game, or more importantly when it comes down to the NBA playoffs or the NBA finals. And Giannis was finally starting to do so with the new additions to his offensive game. And of course, in terms of Giannis's defensive abilities, he was always fantastic in the playoffs. That never wavered. What Giannis is able to do on the defensive end is just fantastic. He's able to guard 1 through 5. He does a great job of guarding the opposing team's best player most nights. And overall, he just has a great basketball IQ and is just a great defender overall. But even besides Giannis completely stepping up in this year's playoffs and finals, another player that really took his game to the next level is Khris Middleton. Khris Middleton is another guy that's a clear all-star on this team. He's definitely a fantastic shooter overall, great catch and shoot 3-point guy, can create his own shot from that 3-point area, pull up mid-range jump shot, post turnaround fadeaway jump shot. Basically, Khris Middleton's game is predicated on his great jump shooting. But some of the issues that Khris Middleton has been dealing with, specifically in the playoffs over the past few years, is his inconsistency. But one thing that he really cleaned up this previous playoffs and finals is he really became very consistent and he was having fantastic games night in and night out. And overall, besides the main two guys in the Bucks with Giannis and Khris Middleton, some other guys on their team also stepped up, specifically Eric Bledsoe, both on the offensive as well as specifically the defensive side. Brook Lopez had a pretty good finals and playoffs. Overall, most of their players just played very well during the finals and playoffs, and that was the biggest reason why they were able to achieve what they set out to do and actually win a championship. But early on in this 2022 NBA season, the Bucks are actually struggling a little bit. Overall, the Bucks on the year are 4-6 currently and are just not playing as well as they did last year. There's a few different reasons why the Bucks are struggling a little bit early on in this season, but just to quickly talk about some of the reasons why. The first issue is Chris Middleton has been dealing with some injury issues, so he's been out a little bit, and of course that's going to hurt when your second best player isn't playing on the court for you. Also, another guy that was huge for the Bucks last year in Jrue Holiday is struggling a little bit to start the year early this year. He went through some injuries, missed some games, but overall he's definitely struggling and not having a great year so far, but of course it's still very early on in the season. But besides just individual deficiencies, overall as a team, the Bucks just don't look as fluid on the offensive end as well as defensively as it did last year. But now the question of the video is, should we be a little bit concerned based on how the Bucks have started out, or are the Bucks going to be fine in the long run? So of course, before you really determine anything based on how these guys are playing individually or as a team, you have to get everyone back healthy first and fully playing to their abilities. So specifically talking about guys like Jrue Holiday as well as Chris Middleton, although they're both back, you want to see them play a little bit more and really get their feet underneath them and really feel comfortable out there on the court. That's the first step, obviously. But after both of these guys really get back on the court and start to feel a lot more comfortable, then you could really start determining how the Bucks are playing and if it's something to be worried about going forward. But besides just that, talking about their defensive struggles a little bit, so of course it's still very early on in the season and there's a ton of different teams in the NBA that aren't playing as well as they probably should, but it's more so just teams getting acclimated to the new players they brought in during free agency or during the draft and just getting the chemistry up. And you basically see it every single year. The teams that turn out to be really good teams in the end sometimes start out pretty slow because they're just getting used to all their new teammates and getting their chemistry up. So you could definitely say the same thing for this Milwaukee Bucks team, that although basically their team is the same, they have brought in a few new pieces, and also it's still early on in the season, just coming off a long off season, and maybe just the Bucks, just like any other team, would need some time to really get into the flow of things, get their chemistry up, and overall just get back to the point that they were at last year. Now with that being said, there definitely are certain things that I am a little bit concerned about with the Bucks in terms of their defensive ability as a whole, because overall I think the Bucks proved last year that this unit is a really good defensive unit and a great defensive team overall, but sometimes even when you're a great defensive team, if sometimes you lack and slack on the defensive side, sometimes that could become a habit and you can go from a really good defensive team into a really bad defensive team if you're not trying hard enough, or you just make it a habit of not trying hard enough on the defensive side, even if you have great individual defenders. Sometimes that could happen, so of course you really want to see the Bucks clean that up, although it's still very early on in the season. But overall, to answer the question of the video, if I think the Bucks are in trouble or we should be nervous or worried about the Bucks, I definitely do not think so. I think more so the early woes are more so due to just, first of all, it's very early on in the season and it takes every team some time to get acclimated and really feel comfortable with the new teammates or just the new season after a long off season. I think that's more so of the issue. But also, as I mentioned before in the video, a lot of the main players on their team, specifically Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton, have been going through some injuries and not playing as well as they did last year. So as they get more healthy and as they play more games, I think they're going to feel a lot more comfortable out there on the court. And overall, I think the Bucks are just going to be fine in the long term. I think last year they proved the ability that they had, not only during the regular season, but also moving on and transitioning into the playoffs. And I'm excited to see what this Bucks team can do this year going forward. Now, I think the Eastern Conference is a lot more difficult to win this year than it was last year, as well as the West has gotten a lot better as well. So it's going to be a lot more difficult for the Bucks to win a championship this year than it was for them last year. But with that being said, I still think this Bucks team is a really good team and certainly a contender to win an NBA championship for sure. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think we should be worried about the Milwaukee Bucks, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetics. Hope you can't go where I'm headed.